There's a case pending before the U.S. Supreme Court right now. Argument was held in November, another voucher kind of tuition aid program that comes out of Arizona. Arizona Christian School Tuition Organization versus WIN, the Americans United, filed a friend of the court brief in this case. Just to quickly run through the facts of that, Arizona lets you take a tax credit. And certain, your tax credit then goes to a student tuition organization, and the student tuition organization gives scholarships to poor people, and they take the scholarship dollars and go to a private school. Almost, again, all of them are religious schools, but maybe not all. However, in this situation, so it's a little twist because it's not directly being funded by taxpayers. First of all, it's a credit, tax credit, right? You take your credit and you make a donation. So one of the arguments here is a standing argument, essentially. No, there shouldn't be any standing here because we're not actually using taxpayer dollars. It's just people making this private decision to get a tax credit and then have it go to. So there's a complicated standing question. I think if you look at it realistically, and those tax dollars that they're getting credit for are coming out of somewhere, right? They're not just like coming out of thin air. Even if it is a credit, it ultimately is going to be paid for by somebody somehow. It's dollars that aren't going into general revenue if you're taking a tax credit for it. On the standing question, basic questions that were asked by Justice Kennedy in oral argument, it seems like he has a problem with the no standing argument, although 4 justices might very well go that way to cut off some of these state cases from getting to the court. But he seems to be pretty skeptical of the argument here that this is really different from the typical taxpayer case, and therefore there shouldn't be standing available based on taxpayer status. So there's a standing question, but then there's the ultimate question, is this program in any way distinguishable from the Ohio case? Well, arguably it is, though I'm not sure it'll convince Justice Kennedy, because there's only a limited part of this tuition money available from these organizations. If you are a poor person and you want to get some tuition aid, you can apply to these different STOs and see if they'll give you a scholarship. But first of all, most of them, you might only get one of them, and that one might only allow you to go to a religious school. So essentially you have a choice. Do you want to use that scholarship money to go only to a religious school, or do you not want to use it? So it's a little different. It's not, they don't have the choice. Every person who uses these dollars ultimately of going to religious or non-religious school, they might in some cases only have the option of going to religious school or not use it at all. So it could potentially be distinguished on that ground. I don't know which way it's going to come out, but I can guarantee almost it'll be a 5-4 decision. And whatever Justice Kennedy thinks about all that will ultimately determine where we come out. So it does seem to be a system that's a little bit more skewed in favor of religious schools than the program was in Ohio. So that's not covering every area of church-state law, but gives you a pretty good feel, I think, for where the court is on some of the key areas. Now, what does that mean in terms of the future of church-state law? Well, Justice Kennedy will die someday, or retire, or some other justice, and then the law might change. Where the balance in the court might shift. For some years in the past, it's been Justice O'Connor had been the swing vote, basically for the last decade in most of these cases. It's been Justice Kennedy. It'll keep being Justice Kennedy as long as he stays on the court, unless certain possible changes are made. It doesn't look like Justice Kennedy wants to leave the court anytime soon. And if he stays there, and the rest of the justices stay there, that he's going to be deciding every one of these cases, essentially. There might be a rare case down in Place where he's not the swing vote, but just about every case, he's going to be the deciding vote. He's 74. Justice Scalia is 74. Justice Breyer is 72. Justice Ginsburg is the oldest justice right now, 77. Probably will be the first justice to retire. Assuming she retires during the Obama presidency, is appointed, replaced by another sort of liberal on the court, liberal moderate justice on the court. That's not going to change anything. nothing will change whatsoever if Justice O'Connor is replaced by another liberal, nor, of course, if eventually Justice Scalia leaves, for example, and is replaced by another conservative, nothing's going to change. What will change, and only will change, is if a liberal is replaced by a conservative, Justice Ginsburg is replaced by some conservative, 4 years from now or whatever. Justice Scalia is replaced by a liberal 3 or 4 years from now. That would really change things. Or, of course, anytime Justice Kennedy leaves, things change because he's the deciding vote. So whatever is in Justice Kennedy's head is all that matters really right now. And if you replace Justice Kennedy, you have to replace him with another moderate, middle swing justice, right? Then whatever that justice thought would be. But basically, it's Justice Kennedy is the whole ballgame. I mean, you might as well just write a brief for Justice Kennedy. Pull out every quote you can find of Justice Kennedy and throw it at him because he's going to decide the case in the area of church-state law, which is at least with most of these kinds of cases that we've been talking about. But things on the long run are going to change, I think, in this area of church-state law. Because over the long run, the kinds of cases that get decided by the court in the church-state area reflect the makeup of our religious makeup of the United States, and that is changing. I think there are a couple of long-term trends in place that aren't going to go away anytime soon. One of the long-term trends is that the United States is becoming a more secular country, despite some of the evidence that you might see depending on where you look. I mean, the youngest generation of Americans, both aged 18 to 29, 1/4 of them claim no affiliation with any religion. That's by far the highest percentage of any age group in the United States. And you've seen that trend for decades. That each generation tends to be a little bit more secular than the preceding generation, despite some of the evidence that you might gather from political parties and the like. So there's a long-term trend towards in that way. I think the United States, in the long run, is becoming more like Europe or some other parts of the world in terms of its attitudes towards religion, becoming more secular over the long run, and that will probably change things. Since it's a trend that's been going on for about 100 years. Another trend is that the United States is becoming a more religiously diverse nation. For the first time last year, less than half of the people in the United States call themselves Protestant. You're finding, of course, there's a growing Catholic, Hispanic population, but there's a lot of other groups out there now. You find these New Agey religions, and you find more Muslims, and you find more Buddhists, and America is becoming much more religiously diverse. It's a long-term trend, and I don't think that's going to change either. Right? Essentially, what's happening, I think, is that there's an increasingly dynamic religious marketplace. We're a market-based economy, and that comes to religion too. I mean, people go shopping for religions. It used to be that your religion was the religion of your parents. Faith of our fathers, holy faith. That was it, right? I mean, for most, 98% of the people. Today, people, how about that religion? Let's try that one. That's that one thing. Or maybe not. And then there's this kind of marketplace, different options out there that people are exploring today. So we got to, things are changing.